I decided instead of being scared of that, I want to be excited about that.
Welcome to The Naked Texture Artist. On this podcast, I have deep and honest conversations with visual effects and animation veterans about their challenges and growth as working artists. My name is Mark-Pierre Sondergaard, and I'll be your host. Let's get started. Hey, welcome. This is the last episode with Claudia. For now, at least. You know, in my first episode with Claudia, the beginning of our conversation, I was maybe a bit impatient and hit her with a more difficult question straight out of the gate. I think that was a mistake on my part. But now, when we're well over an hour into our conversation, the whole thing just flows so nicely. I'm really enjoying discussing very personal topics, such as discrimination in the workplace, how our profession will change because of AI, and who Claudia's texture heroes are. I was also pressing Claudia on what, in her experience as a texture supervisor, makes a truly great texture artist. So many useful goodies to enjoy and hopefully implement in your own life and career. So time for me to shut up and cue up the last part of my conversation with Claudia Marvisi. Enjoy. When you're looking back over the course of your career, have there been any sort of key moments or turning points where you can say, you know, if that hadn't happened, I was really lucky here, or really unlucky here. If that hadn't happened, I definitely wouldn't have been where I am today.
Oh, well, yes. Oh my God, it's difficult now to recall.
Sure, in a heartbeat, yes. Yeah,
The
take your
events
time.
in particular, because for sure there have been key moments. I mean, I think that's very difficult to explain, but the way I see life progressing in general, my life progressing, that's how, when I'm telling you I have this instinct, I always know that I see the objectives in front of me,
Yeah.
but I don't see clearly in the future for like the next 10 years. Maybe it's like, but sometimes I feel that I learned with time that things happen and then things click and then you make a step forward. It's very difficult for me to explain because it's something very emotional.
You mean that your progress is not sort of a little bit every day, but it's more like some key learnings, and then it
is a bit
snaps
every
into
day.
place, and you take more of a big jump forward?
It is a bit every day, like you're looking for the piece of the puzzle that's still progressing, and then you find it and you put it in place. And then that's where you realize there are some realization moments that happens, at least to me. It's like, oh, okay, this happened, and now I see clearly what can happen after. So it's like I'm seeing my next challenge, but sometimes when you are in it, you leave it, and then there is a moment that you click, and then there is something happening after. Sorry, it's really difficult for me to explain that because
But
I think it's very personal in a way.
But I think you're onto something here, that it's like we only understand life at a little bit of a distance, when you're looking back and you realize, oh, this is what happened, and this is why I after that point, I learned this and I moved forward, or now I'm here. In the moment, it's hard to understand what is going on with me. It's like I feel like we live life in forward speed, but we understand it in reverse speed, as in like a cassette player, or you're playing the video backwards or forwards, But do you have an example of such a moment where, I don't know, a big change that later became clear to you when you were looking back on it?
I mean, that's the biggest change is when I decided, because I started my experience, my working experience first of all, I was working in video games companies, so I didn't start with VFX. However, I found out first about VFX in when I was doing university, but then games was something more familiar to me, and that's I was passionate about, so that's what I wanted to do. Still, I was not into 3D really, but then the moment that there was a key moment for me, it was like when I decided, okay, I want to do more, because what I was doing for games, it was mostly like 2D games, and then I was working for I did work for sometimes for mobile games. So, but then I said, okay, that's I need to change that, and that's where I decided to step out and then get back to study. And that was a very tough decision, because I could have said, okay, I'm going to look for another job, whatever. But no, I said, okay, I'm going back to study. And I went to study in Denmark, actually, at the animation workshop, and I did the visual effects course. So, and that's where I put that piece of the puzzle there. And then I saw, okay, yes, that's where I want to go. And that's where I can move forward to build my career. I didn't know I would have become head of texturing. Of course, I didn't know this. And it's not that I was even dreaming of it. But I said, okay, I want to do the dragons for Game of Thrones. And if I want to do something like that, I need to get into the industry. And this key point was to decide, okay, I will get back to study. I want to get better in 3D.
Did you catch that? Back in episode 1, Claudia talked about a dragon for Game of Thrones. Again in episode 2, she mentioned this very thing. I'm starting to get the picture. It only took me 3 episodes. This dream, Claudia's dream to one day paint one of those dragons in Game of Thrones, it sounds like it has been that booster rocket that basically generated the liftoff, which started and propelled her entire VFX career. Powerful stuff. If you can dream it, you can do it. Yes, that is the power of having a strong, precise and compelling vision. Hey, I didn't say if you can dream it, you will do it. The amount of legwork will be the same, vision or no vision, but you'll be whistling a cheerful tune as you go to work if you're on your way to fulfilling a dream. That original Game of Thrones dragon, if memory serves, I'm pretty sure that was painted by none other than my very first texture lead, Andrea Giordano, a formidable Spanish artist. I don't mind giving her that shout out. She deserves that and more. Small world, huh? But you know what? This makes me realize what I should have asked Claudia about is, what then? When you have conquered such a big personal goal, what does that feel like when the afterglow has worn off? Where do you go from there? That is some of the stuff I was discussing with Chris Nichols.
And then I found out texturing, and that's where I fell in love with texturing, and that's where I said, okay, I'm good. I see that there is artistic space in this industry, and I saw texturing was the most artistic thing for me in the whole 3D pipeline, because as I said, I really wanted that this and sculpting. That's why I mentioned sculpting before.
Yeah.
So that was one of the moments. And then it could be also other like little key moments. The moment that on a project they give you that little bit more of a challenge, that you find your way to do it in a way that you start talking differently to the supervisor, and you feel that you start having a different feeling with the supervisor, feeling okay, maybe something changed in the way I am presenting my work, or it's a little bit of all of these things that said, okay, I'm still progressing, so that's good, as long as I don't stay still in some place, because that would kill me actually.
I think if you grew up with that sort of like the admiration for games like Myst and so on, and you're then working on 2D mobile games many years ago, there's probably a big sort of gap in terms of like, I'm not really doing what I was hoping to do. And I can see how that would pull you over towards visual effects with a much higher fidelity and quality and so on. What was it? Would you say texturing when the moment when you sort of like when you make that choice, as in texturing, that's what I'm going to focus on, texturing and sculpting and that sort of world. Was it? Did it just speak to you, or was it many times you pick at? I mean, like I'm thinking about myself. I had some teachers that I related more to in university. I also did what you did, going back to university, and just simply if you have a good teacher, all of a sudden, hey, I'm an animator. I want to be an animator because you have an animation teacher that you really bond with, and you. Was it something like that, or was it something else that spoke to you?
Well, I mean, you know who my teacher was when I studied texturing? It was Chris Nichols.
Oh boy, Mr.
So
Thanos.
yeah, so I really, I mean, he did a lot for that, because I mean, when the moment that it was just 2 weeks. I mean, the texturing part in the course that I did, it was like we were doing through the whole visual effects pipeline. And so it was like 2 weeks of modeling, match moving, 2 weeks of texturing, 2 weeks of shading. But for me, these 2 weeks that I had Chris as teacher, and I saw the texturing and and compared to the other things, for me was like, oh, this is super artistic. I'm
Yeah,
painting in 3D. This is
yeah,
magic. It's like
yeah,
I used to do it in Photoshop, like just digital painting, and now I can do it on something that rotates
yeah,
360
yeah,
degrees.
yeah,
That's so
yeah.
nice. And of course,
Absolutely.
Chris was really, really good as a teacher, because it was really conveying this feeling, the fact that, okay, you are doing something, you are creating something, you're telling a story, and that's what always stick to my mind. It's like, oh, I really like the texturing part of it.
Chris is something else. Yeah, definitely. I can see that. I can see that. That's and that makes a huge difference. My goodness. Um, yeah, he has made several of his professional pieces of work. I mean, like my goodness, if I had done Thanos, I would have that tattooed on my forehead. That's it. I just retire. I just be. That's fine. I'm fine with just being known as the guy that did Thanos. He's something else. What a lucky break to come across a guy like
Yes.
that early in your career. And you've been back to that school yourself, Tom.
Yes.
So
I
full
mean,
circle. How was that?
it
That
was
must have been
great.
that must have been strange,
Yes, but
emotional.
yes, it was so great, because it's like I came back to teach what Chris taught me. It's like I was there for 2 weeks to teach the texturing module, and coming back there, it brought back so many memories. That place is great. The animation workshop in Denmark. You've been there too, so you know.
Yeah, I have also taught that 2 week Mari taster module. I did it last year,
Yeah,
and it was a very satisfying experience. Just basically, maybe a little bit like how you feel about leading a team. That is not the work that you are doing yourself, but you're measuring yourself on how well is my team doing. In this case, the students, which is a brand new feeling for me. But I couldn't have been more proud of them at the end of those 2 weeks. And for them, it was nothing saying goodbye to another teacher because they've done it a million times before. Every class ends and then a teacher goes. But for me, it was very sad having to say goodbye to them. And tried to, I was, to all of them, I told them, please keep in touch. Let me know how you're doing, if I can ever help you. And it's the funny thing, you got 10, 20 people and you tell them that story. Maybe you hear from one, maybe two. And that's that. And all the rest of them, what are they doing? My lost children, are they
yeah.
okay? I don't know. you know, it's terrible.
Yeah, no, but I think I also found a lot of pleasure in teaching, and when you have people that you at least you can give something back, to share your knowledge, and when especially, I mean, students can be really great people. They, as I said, they are like sponges. They absorb everything, and they give you back in a way of their hard work. It's and when they just say thanks to you, that's so rewarding, because it's like you meant that you a little bit you gave, you did your part for their future development, and I think it's a very nice feeling that I have every time I'm dealing with students, and in Denmark it was after, like, I mostly teach remotely, of course, with all the online, and there it was on the spot. So you were in a classroom with other people, and that was really, really nice because you could really look them in the eyes. You could sit next to them in front of their computer and, talk to them. So it was super nice.
For me, I would say, sure, if people say thank you to you as a teacher, and that's great. But for me, the biggest thank you is when I can see that they have taken what I have told them and used
Oh,
this
yeah.
knowledge. That's the biggest thing. That is a thank you cannot fake. You can say fake thank you. That's easy to do. But to actually take the knowledge and experience I'm trying to teach them and using that and then moving forward with that knowledge, that is a beautiful, beautiful thing to experience, I feel.
Yeah. I mean, of course, when I meant thank you, what I meant is like when they come to you and say thank you because you showed me a new way of seeing things that now I can apply
Yeah.
on my work. So that's, I mean, when you see that they do it and that they put it in words, it's just really, really nice.
Yeah. I had one student that told me after the class, told me, I thought I was going to hate texturing, but I actually like it. And I think, oh, that's such a huge compliment. My goodness.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh boy. Oh man, this is like having children, basically. You know,
it is.
they get under your skin. They're terrible. They give you headaches. They give you a lot of work, and then it's very satisfying as well. I wanted to ask you: have you ever felt discrimination in the workplace?
I mean,
Let me tell you a story.
okay.
So when I was in the first studio I was working for, which was Digital Domain, tried to build a studio in London. It didn't last very long, but anyway, I was there working as a runner, and I got my first chance texturing there. We had there was an Italian girl that came there, and she from southern part of Italy, broken English, heavy accent, and coming into that environment for her must have been really, really hard because this is a place full of stupid boys behind their computers, and they were teasing her mercilessly. They were constantly making jokes of her, and throughout all of it, she was a just an unending smile, always smiling, always working hard, and she was doing this unpaid while she was studying on the side and having a real job to earn a living in London, which is not easy. And then she still turns up for 8 hours a day here at Digital Domain. And I couldn't have been more impressed with her because she was working her socks off under difficult circumstances while everybody else were all of these idiots were trying to make trouble for her, you know? It's I should say that without naming any names, she is a top department manager for Framestore today. So but she already showed those qualities back then. But it just sort of like showed to me how the workplace is not always a straightforward place to be, depending on, particularly if you're traveling outside of your country, and now you stand out, you're a little bit different, you're whatever. Discrimination can easily find you. Is this something you've ever had to endure?
I mean, it can. I never had huge issues, honestly, personally, with that. I have to say that the VFX industry is a young industry, so thank God most of the people are pretty open-minded, and that's not it's not really a habit of the industry of being not that open-minded, let's say. But of course, I mean, especially as a an Italian abroad, I mean, this happened to me sometimes, and I was not at work that a person that I was talking to this person, and this person, without asking me what I was doing or anything, I was talking, oh yeah, tomorrow I have to go to work, whatever. And then this person told me, oh, you work in a restaurant? And I said, well, come on.
Why?
Because I'm in Italian living abroad, you assume that I am a waitress, or I work in an Italian restaurant making pizza? It's like, come on. So I face sometimes these kind of things, not on the workplace, of course, because,
Okay.
well, but yeah, that's
The problem
that
is
can be.
in the workplace you're kind of forced to meet it every day, from 9 to 5 or whatever hours you work, whereas let's say if it is a random event on the street or someplace, okay. But in the workplace you cannot really hide, you have to turn up for work. That's
Yeah.
that's I just wonder how you handle such things.
I mean, sometimes I had the feeling that I had to work twice as hard to prove
Yeah.
that, look, I mean, I might be a woman, because that's all about it. And sometimes I happen that I am in meetings with the global meetings of the company. I am the only woman there. I mean, from production side, yes, there are many women, but not on the artist side leading parts. So I am one of the few, and then, I mean, maybe I get in my head sometimes, and I think I have to prove more than
So
double, because
you
then
fear that it is a bigger problem in your head than in
it
reality,
could be
or
sometimes,
or
because
maybe it was put in your head because of
maybe it was put in my
reality.
head. Yeah,
I don't know. But how do
yeah.
you, yeah, how do you know where it starts and where it ends? Yeah.
Yeah, but not to be wrong, I always push twice as hard until said okay. So then you guys realize that I am at your level, and you have to treat me as I deserve. So that's maybe it was not needed. Maybe maybe it's needed for everyone. It's like the first time. Maybe it's like the first time that you deal with that person, whatever. So there can be this that they start assuming that if you're a woman, you are, I don't know, more fragile. They don't, you don't say, maybe you don't speak up, and or maybe you are the person that it never gets angry. So I can, again, I'm very generalizing, but considering that I'm a person that I'm not really on this side of the stereotypes for a woman, because I am not a person that doesn't speak up or anything. Then people realize pretty soon that yeah, I could be a quite a big pain in the neck, actually.
Do you use sort of like a, I don't know, like a support network of where you have other colleagues or friends that you talk these issues through with, to sort of uh, help recalibrate and see things clearly, or maybe get some advice, or you just handling this on your own?
No, not really. I mean, it's like as I said, I never had really like any uh, clear issues on that, so there is not much to talk about, I guess.
Okay.
Sometimes I
Okay.
can double check with friends to understand. Okay, this in my head, or this really happened. So I might talk with friends that maybe are really outside of the field, so that they can give me a better overview. But yeah, hopefully this didn't happen that much. Let's say.
It's one of these things, as I'm a man and I'm a white man, so we're like supposedly the most privileged people on earth, or so it's not something I ever think about all that much until it happens to you, and then you start seeing it everywhere. It opens your eyes to it. I was in so here, of course, I live and work in Montreal, and Canada is a officially a bilingual country, so that means we have French provinces and English provinces. Of course, Quebec is known as the French province, but officially there are two languages here, English and French. And I never thought about this before. I joined a local studio here, where it was a very dominant French language studio. Didn't think it was. I thought they were hiring me for my skills with Mari or Maya or whatever, So that's what you think, your hard skills as an artist. This is what's going to be important. But if you find yourself, so I can speak some French, but it's not fluent yet. But I found myself in a situation where the language was weaponized, so to speak. When the important decisions were being made, they were all being made in French in a way that I couldn't understand what was going on. So I might as well have been blind or deaf as to what was happening around me. And it was also a studio in transition and change. So there were a lot of political things happening there. And I was completely blindsided by the use of discrimination with language, so to speak, against me. And it became a very unpleasant environment very quickly. And you couldn't pinpoint any of it, but you knew it was all just happening in the traveling through the French circles rather than in a language that I could understand and speak. And that sort of opened my eyes to discrimination, how that can take many forms, and how unpleasant it is to work through it. Because, like I say, one thing is it happens on the street and you can walk away. But if it is in the workplace where you are kind of have to show up every single day and work through it, then it's a very different story and how to handle it. I mean, of course, every situation is different, but I'm asking about this because it's something I haven't quite figured out myself.
I mean, one thing that I learned, it's not about discrimination or in general, is that if there is something that it's not working or it's not, you feel uncomfortable, I just speak up. I just say it. I don't care. It's like, of course, you always have to be polite and respectful of the other person, whatever. But really, as I said, I'm a very direct person. So it's like, if I have a problem or if you did something wrong, I just say it. Because I want to.
Yeah,
I
I'm
take
with
it.
you on that. Talk to my face,
Yeah.
I can take anything coming to my face, but all the stuff behind your back, that's. But I think, unfortunately, Claudia, that we as people with that sort of brutal honesty to your face kind of thing, that we're in the minority. Most people don't like those kind of confrontations. They don't like that unpleasantness. They'd rather just sort of behind, in the corridors kind of things. So it makes it difficult. I wish the world was as simple as that. Just open and honest to my face, please. But it doesn't, in my experience, it doesn't work that way.
No, no. And these are the people that drives me crazy, actually. But yeah,
There
that's
we are.
another story.
So as a lead and as a supervisor, have you ever sort of managed to distill any thoughts about what is the difference between a good texture artist and a truly great one? Do you see any common traits or qualities or something people can work on to sort of take their texturing game to the next level?
I mean, for sure, the people that can be in the heaven of texturing are the ones that see the matrix. So, meaning that you are able to, when you are doing your textures, this is on a very practical and artistic level, that people that are able to see the big picture and detail. Because most of the time I find that there are some people that are very good in doing details, but then when you see the big picture, they lose control of the big picture. And that's, so the people that manage to have an asset working and looking beautiful, doesn't matter from which distance. I mean, it's not always possible, but that how to handle the texture artistically in a way that you just don't concentrate on the little things, but you know that you have to make it work in a broader way. These are the people that it's not so common, honestly, to find or to find someone that sees this kind of metrics on how the thing works. It's like the connections that you can make in your mind to make that material work, that texture work, if you can tell a story. So, it's like, it's all about telling a story for texturing. This is what, I mean, I'm not saying that everyone that has a bit of experience knows that, but it's really that. It's people that put their heart and their mind in what they're doing. So think about what you're doing. Ask yourself, the curious people, if you are a curious people, so you ask yourself how things work, why things are like this. Then you will ask this also for your texturing work, like why this material is like this. Why am I I'm putting scratches there instead of putting in there. You don't have to go to your supervisor and explain, okay, I put a scratch there because that's not, it can stay in your mind, but if you have this kind of thinking in your mind, you are creative also in your mind, then you can be creative in your work. So it's not just a matter of sitting in front of the computer and start painting, because yes, you can be a great texture painter, but start in your mind, start thinking, think about the story, think about, okay, you're doing maybe an object, what this object has been through, what happened, why I want to put that detail there. And this is something that I think it really makes a difference from a good texture artist and a very good texture artist. Then, without saying all the other soft skills that comes with the job, so like the experience, the fact that you know how to handle yourself, and plan your work in a way that makes your life easier, so that you're faster but still deliver good qualities. I mean, these are all it's a whole set of skills that comes with the experience. So yeah, I mean, there will be a lot to say about that.
That thing that you're saying about sort of like think about this object, what is its story, how is it being used, or if it is a dead object, or how is, and how that informs the details, like scratches will go here, not there, and as you were saying, I I don't know. Am I too critical? I feel like that's like the ABC of texturing. That shouldn't be like what changes you from good to truly great. I mean, like that should just be like to get to good, I would say. Or is that rare to come across in your experience? I mean, you reviewed other texture artists' work on a level. I mean, I don't. So I'm maybe a little bit more siloed. I don't understand. I don't have the same understanding for what other people are doing. I just know what I do myself, so to speak.
I mean, you know what makes this thing very difficult, when you have to work like this under a deadline, under pressure, under the fact that you still need to manage to find the time to think, to process, to have your creativity in your head, and then do it, even if it's for a project that it's not your personal project, because of course with personal projects it's always easier. So yeah, I mean, I don't find it that it's I don't take it for granted that all the artists can put that little spark in their textures, and it's even more difficult when you are in a production, you're under pressure, and you have deadlines. So if you
Yeah,
manage to
that's true.
combine that, you deliver this in the right time frame, and plus you add that little additional touch of personality to your texture, then I think it's a great quality. Of course, all the texture artists that have a little bit of experience, they have this, but there are different levels. I'm talking high levels in a way that
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe a broader question, sort of looking at your life and looking at your experience so far. Do you have any heroes? There may be personal ones, or maybe people that are heroes that other people know, like celebrities or famous people through time. I don't know. What I'm trying to get at is people that have taught you a valuable lesson that sort of become a core part of how you function, and you can maybe, you're saying like I wouldn't be nearly as successful as I am today if it wasn't for that sort of lesson or little piece of wisdom or a bit of support or whatever it may be that I got from this person, whether somebody like a celebrity you just read about and or like, or it could be a family member that actually showed you something by example. I'm A big question perhaps, but I'm thinking, for example, me, I was reading about Rembrandt, never met him, obviously. And he had this thing that he was saying that has just helped me so much in my work. He talked about start with what is known, and what is hidden will be revealed. It's just such a simple
yeah.
sentence. But when I panic, when I don't know how to start an asset, or if I'm not sure what is still missing here, or any part of my asset work, I it just, that simple sentence from Rembrandt there has helped me immeasurably. I don't know. I mean, and then my mom had this thing that she would always laugh at me when I was like at my wits' end, and I couldn't figure out what to do, and I was ready to give up, and she'd just laugh at me and say like, well, you can't lie down and die, so what are you going to do? So the whole idea was that you couldn't give up. That was not allowed. And she just stating that like, well, you're not allowed to give up. So what? So you need to figure out a way. So what are you going to figure out? And just that, those two things, I would say have helped me so much in my career. I don't know if you have any such heroes or something like people have taught you like a really valuable lesson that's benefited you in many aspects of life.
Well, I mean, it's always difficult for me to answer this question because first of all, I'm not good with names, but that's not the point, and also because I sometimes I get surprised what I can learn from people, like little pieces here and there, and then it's like it could be hundreds of people that inspired me for some things, little things during my life, you know. So it's really difficult to tell you, okay, this thing or that thing. I mean, for sure. Getting back to the topic on how I fell in love with texturing was thanks to Chris Nichols. So it was a little bit of my hero because for many years, I kept, thinking about what he was telling about creating texture, and I still have this thing in my mind. So this is something for sure that had an impact on me. But also, I mean, it things that also from negative people that they might tell you something that it has an impact on you, and then this is something that still you make a valuable lesson out of it, and it could
As
be
in you make the opposite lesson, sort of like you see this is a negative person. I don't want to become like that, so I'm gonna go the other direction, or how.
yes, that could be one thing, or could be dealing with, I don't know, an harsh supervisor that one day told you something, and you were burned by it. But that's a valuable lesson. You still learn from that, and still it's something that some words stick to your mind. And then it's a matter of what you make out of this word. So it's a lot of bits and pieces for me that really I found interesting, and I brought together with me, and it was both positive and negative things that it's just challenged me more and taught me something. So as long as I learned something, I'm happy.
That's a good perspective to have. Do you think you're going to retire as a texture artist? Or are there going to be other chapters in your journey in front of you that's maybe not necessarily going to be in texturing? Or do you ever sort of like, how far out does your timeline go?
Well, first of all, you need to ask this to artificial intelligence, probably.
Oh, yeah.
No, I mean the thing is that the industry is changing a lot, and I don't think any of us will retire as texture artists. Maybe, or we will retire as a different way of being a texture artist. So who knows? I mean, maybe we will retire that we are still in the industry, but in a different way. So this is something that this goes back to my philosophy of seeing things, and waiting for these clicks that happens in my life, and that's actually one of the things that I don't see that long in the future. I will follow my instincts on where my path will lead me, and then just wait for the clicks that happens, that then I can rationalize my thoughts, and then from there move on. So for me, the only important thing that needs to happen in the future is that I'm still happy with doing what I'm doing. I don't want ever to become that person that you get used to your job, you do your daily routine, and that's it, and you wait for retirement. I mean, I hope I will never become that, because I don't want to be that. And the moment that I feel, okay, that's where I have this kind of clicks and said, okay, it's time to aim to go forward. So, that's as long as I have this, then whatever things will come in my life, I will be happy because it means that I moved forward. But you never know. You need to be open to anything.
I have met I have met these kind of artists that there are not that many of them, but and that are basically like, yeah, I'm a texture artist. I've been texturing for 20 years or whatever. But what I'm really excited about is playing, I don't know, banjo in the weekends or whatever. This is just a job for me. I mean, I'm just making stuff up here, but for me, it was so hard to break into the industry. It was so hard to. This journey has not been easy. That I always think, really, this is your easy job? There are so many other easy jobs you could have out there if you don't care about what you're doing, you know. So it doesn't make any sense to me. Anyway, you were saying there about how our industry is changing and very quickly. How do you? What are these changes? Is there anything that you've got your eyes on? Anything that you've sort of noticed over the past couple of years that's worth
I
pointing
mean,
out?
of course, I mean, the industry is changing because technology is changing. So the most obvious thing now is with artificial intelligence, and I don't think people really realize how much is going to impact our lives, not only our jobs. And I'm not saying it to be catastrophical. I always embrace technology because I think that's what I said before. It's like I started when I was a very little kid because of my father, and I always had this fascination with technology. And I think that's one point on my favor, because you cannot go against technology. Technologies will always progress. You need to embrace it because there is no other option. If you like it, even better. And I think with AI, it's now the time to, I mean, embracing it, it makes it sound like, oh, I'm a big fan of AI. It's not that. It's just that it's a new technology, and you need to embrace it in a way that it needs to become a new tool for you to work. And for texturing, there will be a lot. There is already some tools that I'm testing now at that are working already, and we will get to the point where we will have tools that, I'm not saying they will replace the texture artist, because that's not. I mean, an artist cannot be replaced by artificial intelligence, but we will find new ways of working. And I decided, instead of being scared of that, I want to be excited about that, because that means it's a new challenge. It means, okay, let's try new things. Let's try to be creative in different ways. I want to use AI not to generate beautiful pictures for me. I want to use it maybe to speed up some things that otherwise, and then so that I have more time to be creative. So I think that's the biggest revolution that is about to hit us, and we'll see how it goes.
And AI is one of these things and so we're talking now in the month of June 2023 for posterity. Uh, and I want to say, just really over the past half a year, 1 year tops, it has really, really taken off, AI, with the image generation through a language model, as in you're writing, you're describing images and they're produced after that. But even before that, if we just look back a little bit, it's kind of like we don't even talk about that one anymore. The whole movement through the pandemic to remote work. How do you see that? Is that here to stay, or how will that change how we work? I mean, it's already changed a lot of how we work. Do you see any if we were just looking 5 years in the future along that line there, how do you see that?
I mean, remote work is now part of our lives, so we will never get back to as it was before. At least,
You don't think so? You don't?
no, I don't think
I
so,
mean,
because
I know some studios that are desperately trying to move people back in that direction, and they're like saying, oh, we want to have you 3 days out of 5 in the office, and then maybe more still, and what have you. It seems like from management side, that is a direction people really want to go in. But on the artist side, they're like, no, the cat is out of the bag. It's never going to go back inside again.
But yeah, that's why. I mean, that's why you can, as production, if you can try as much as you want to have people back 100% in the studio, but that's the way of people think, the way of people think about their daily work has changed. So you cannot reverse that. And I mean, let's make it clear, I'm not completely 100% happy with remote working because I don't think 100% remote working is something that really works for everything. There are some things that you just need to be in the company. I love to be in the company and be surrounded by people, especially with my team. So, that's something that we are missing. I think hybrid could be, that's where most studios are going towards to. So if you're telling me, okay, you need to come in 3 days per week, I'm fine with that. I'm super happy with it. And I see that it makes sense because some things works just better when you are in person, but you will never get back to be 100% back as it was before. I don't think so.
No. Sadly, this episode concludes my first interview with Claudia Marvisi. Do you want more? Of course, I do too. But make sure you check out the previous 2 episodes with Claudia. And feel free to check out all the conversations with the other cool artists too. Maybe we will be able to bring Claudia back for round 2 sometime. But for now, this is goodbye. Thanks for spending a little bit of your day with us. We have a tiny bit of housekeeping to do on the way out. If this episode has been helpful to you, why not share the podcast with your colleagues and friends? If you'd like to support the podcast, I'd appreciate if you bought me a coffee. You can do that on Ko-fi. That is spelled ko-fi.com/The Naked Texture Artist. One word. If you have suggestions, comments, or questions, I'd love to hear them. Feel free to drop me a line on thenakedtextureartist@gmail.com. That is The Naked Texture Artist written out in all one word @gmail.com. As I mentioned, having a busy day job in visual effects means my release schedule for this podcast can be a bit irregular. So if you don't want to miss out, subscribe to The Naked Texture Artist wherever you get your podcasts. Or follow the podcast on the socials, then you'll be alerted when the next episode drops. The music in this episode was Awake by Tycho. Nick Sifoni helped put the sound together, and everything else was done by me, your host, Mark Pierre Sondergaard. Speak to you soon.